Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Father Talks podcast. I am your host, Mike D, and I am here with Miss Emily Jacobson. Emily is a somatic coach, nervous system educator, and mom who knows what it's like to be calm in an overwhelm when the world outside is overwhelming. Emily, hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, it's so good to be here. And I will say, I do know what it's like to be calm, but I also have my moments, which is why I still do the work that I teach my clients every single day because I want to be that steady rock for my kids when they are dysregulated.
Well, I can tell you, so guys, right before the show aired, Emily and I were already on, and I've got the guys out here digging, putting new cable line in. Internet cuts out, it's back on, it's back out. Then we lose connection. I spill coffee on my shirt, managed to get it all changed. We get back on, and Emily puts me through this breathing exercise that we're going to talk about right now because I'm very calm and I'm very centered now.
Good.
A second ago, I was literally all over the place.
I could see that you were dysregulated, and I don't say that in a judgmental way.
Right.
It makes sense that you were dysregulated, right? So, and actually, I'm going to take a minute and I'm going to stop saying the word dysregulated and I'm going to tell your audience in plain
Okay.
speak what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
So, you have me on here because I'm a somatic coach. That means I'm a coach, but I really work with the body as a way to help people work through their challenges. Because at the end of the day, yes, we have brains, but we are brains attached to this body and we have to learn how to work with it. Okay. So when we got back on after you were discombobulated, running outside, asking these guys, when are you going to be done messing with my internet? You spilled coffee on your shirt. I could see that you were feeling a little frazzled, right? And that makes sense.
That's a smidge.
And then you're like, I have to come back and do this interview. And I wanted to get you in a place where you could be less activated and more like calm so you could actually get to the part of your brain up here in the front, the prefrontal cortex. I wanted you to be able to ask me questions from that part of your brain instead of being distracted from the
Yes.
survival part of your brain that was driving that sense of anxiousness and maybe a little bit like frantic feeling that you were having.
Well, I am feeling very centered and ready to have a good conversation now because
Very good.
before that, I'm not going to lie to you. Just, I was a little stressed. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I want this
Yeah.
to be right. So,
Well, and let's talk a little bit too, Mike, about when you get in those moments,
okay.
when you feel a little stressed, a little frantic. In your mind, how have you over time adapted to like handle those situations? Because I bet what you're about to say is a very similar response to most of your listeners.
Most of the time, it is usually, hey, for my listeners, excuse my language, it's usually like, fuck it, I'll just deal with it, or you know what? I'm
Yeah.
extremely frustrated and generally I hold it all in. You know,
Yeah.
I know that that is not good for us. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you because
Yes.
men in general, we have a hard time talking. We have a hard time
Hmm.
expressing ourselves and dealing with, you know, our problems because they're generally not a safe place for us to do that.
Yeah. That's very fair. And that's a lot of what I hear from my male clients. Let's talk about why men express the way that they do. I've listened to not all of your episodes, but I've listened to a fair number of your episodes. And what I hear from you and the men who you have on is you were never modeled to talk about this stuff. And your parents were not modeled and back and back and back, right?
Exactly.
So here we are sitting here having this conversation, and I would say that you and I are both cycle breakers. We see what's going on, and it's time to shift.
Yes. And it's something that I'm, again, I'm a work in progress. I tell everybody that I'm a
Hmm.
work in progress. I'm 52. My kids are a little bit older now. And there are some things that, when it comes to self-expression, even when it comes to expressing concern, sometimes came out in anger, you know.
Yes,
So those,
anger
yes, and those are the things that I want to help other guys not make the same mistake.
for sure. I'm really glad you brought that up because I want to talk about anger actually today as an emotion. I want to provide some let's say anthropology, shall we?
Right.
Anthropological context to why men gravitate towards anger as an emotion.
Yes.
So, I like to look at humans and how we're wired, not just based on like, the last few generations. I like to
Okay.
take it all the way back to when Homo sapiens first emerged on the scene on this planet. Homo sapiens, we've only been around for like 300,000 years. That is not that long in the grand scheme of things. And 95% of that time on Earth, we lived in small tribes. We're talking 50, maybe 150 people. Okay. So I love thinking back to our ancestors. We were living in caves, hunter gatherer, no electricity, huddled around the fire at nighttime. And what was the role of men? I mean, let's riff here. What do you think?
Generally to provide and protect.
1000%. You were you were hunting, you were protecting, you were providing. So think about a small tribe of people. You want to make sure that you maintain status in the tribe because if you can prove that you're a protector and a provider, you can also then get a mate. Okay, so like men from the very dawn of time of human sapiens, Homo sapiens, like you had a biological reason to um to kind of rise through the ranks within your tribe, right? So what that looked like was the best emotion for you to show was like an emotion that was active, that was doing rather than feeling, okay? Action under threat as opposed to retreat under threat. So when we think about kind of like the main human emotions, we've got anger, we've got shame,
Yes.
we've got fear, and like fear and shame, like not so good for attracting a mate, not so good for protecting the tribe against a saber-toothed tiger, right? Or a bear.
So
Okay. So when I see anger in the modern male, yes, I see anger, but you know what I see? I actually see the emotion that allows men to mobilize. It allows men to avoid vulnerability while like preserving status as
right.
capable protectors. But it just doesn't, it's a mismatch in our modern society, right? Because you're starting to know, like, oh man, like it'd probably be better for me to show vulnerability. But you've got 95% of human history telling you that
The
you need to be the other way, right? Okay. So I just have so much compassion for men because I think men come by anger honestly.
yes.
And if they could do better, they would. And that's where my work comes in. That's where the work of the nervous system comes in, because we can teach men's bodies and women too. I work with men and women. We can teach men's bodies that certain things that are feeling threatening in the moment are not actually threatening. And they don't have to go to anger. They can stay centered and maybe be vulnerable. That might feel safe.
Yeah, and most of the guys that I talk to, we have from an early age, like I said, we were never taught to have a conversation, you know. And listen, I am that I want people to be able to talk to me, but understand that I am the person that if you need me for something, if something is going on, let me switch on that hat. And
Yeah,
but I don't want to always be in that mode. And that's the way I feel like most of the time is that I've most of my life, I've always been in protector mode and never been able to just relax for a minute.
totally.
I've always been the guy that if something's wrong, all right, let's figure it out. No
Yeah.
emotion, no crying. Like I said, I'm 52 and I haven't cried in 20 years.
Wow.
And
And
you know
yeah.
how healthy that is.
And let's step back to a little bit more nervous system education about
Right.
this pattern that you're seeing in yourself and that some of your listeners probably see as well. So our nervous systems are prediction machines, our brains.
Okay.
They're constantly trying to predict what's going to happen in a certain situation. Because think about it, if you can predict what's going to happen, you can be ready to respond if it does.
Right.
So you're drawing on past experiences and what your brain, in its sort of like primitive way, the survival brain that's back near your brainstem, what it's saying is, I have been the I'm always on, I'm always ready to step in, I'm always ready to help, I don't cry. All these things, I'm still alive. Maybe that's what's kept me alive this whole time. Because so you develop these patterns in your nervous system where it's just like staying ready to provide and protect is actually worked for me. So I'm
Yes.
just going to keep doing it. And also, I know how that turns out. I've done it so many times. I can predict that I'm not going to die if I do that. So let's just keep doing it. And what the nervous system does, it gets better at. So it's almost like imagine you've got like this pathway in your brain. It just goes straight to that. And it's really like energy costly to try to be like, what if I tried vulnerability this time? Your survival brain's going, oh, no, 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 we're not going to do that. We don't know how that turns out. I
And
could die. And so it's like we've got these different parts of our brain that are trying so hard to keep us safe. But what men like you are starting to realize with the more evolved parts of their brain is like, I don't know that this is serving me anymore.
yeah, and I've realized it for a long time, actually. I've never, there's ne let me say not never, there's just not any resources. There's never been anything or anybody where I could talk to or anybody I could tell that, "Hey, I wanna change this, and I don't know how."
Yeah,
Even as a young dad, there were no resources for a young dad starting out on how to do this thing, and I understand more than most people that yeah, you can read all the books in the world. Nothing prepared for parenting, but
I totally agree.
some help would have been great,
Yeah.
or at least some direction. So my aim is to hopefully, you know, prevent other men from going through the same situation. You know what? Being a resource for other guys. You say, hey, I'm having this issue. I wanna handle things better. Or you know what? I just don't know how to handle them at all. That's it.
For sure. And you're providing a really safe space of not just are you modeling this for other men, but you're providing some really great content and conversations for men to start thinking like, huh, like I might want to dip my toe into this too and just see what it feels like. And that actually really is the key is because changing the way that you behave, changing the way that you react and relate is scary to a part of your brain, I always recommend like just titrating, like just a little bit of vulnerability and then come back out. Just a little bit more because over time your brain can see like, oh, this new way of being actually didn't pose a real threat. I came out okay. And you can also pair nervous system tools with those, dipping your toe into vulnerability so that you're getting the message in your body like this is a safe activity. And so you don't have to be fighting your own urges, right? Because what I'm hearing you say is you want to try something different, but it doesn't necessarily feel comfortable. And by comfortable, I would say it doesn't feel safe to part of your brain.
And
Yeah.
and I know, like I've talked with guys, even so as a kid, my parents are, like I said, they're providers, phenomenal people. I don't want people to think that, I don't have a good relationship with my parents. I do. But what I recognize is that my parents weren't big on I love yous and hugs and things like that. And as an adult man, sometimes these things made me extremely uncomfortable. So like being being hugged, especially somebody coming up and hugging you and you not knowing it's coming, literally just it like because you're I can tell you it felt so weird and foreign, to have somebody hug you and whatnot. Part of you wants to run, and part of you wants to, find out what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
What is this feeling?
Yeah. And
And I
maybe a little part of you even wants to melt into it,
yes, yes,
but those other parts are screaming really loud.
yeah. It is like eject, eject, eject,
Yes.
and then but at the same time, when it's all over, it's such a foreign feeling, and I've talked to so many guys that being hugged, especially when it's unexpected, you know, is super uncomfortable. You
Yeah.
want
And
what?
that's that predictive part of your brain. It's like, A, I didn't see that coming. I couldn't predict for this. So therefore, I don't know what the outcome is going to be. Scary, scary, scary.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a lot of experience being hugged in general, you also can't predict, is this safe? It's just anything that is out of the norm, our bodies fight against because it thinks it could be a threat, which is sort of like part of your brain is like, that's crazy. This is human connection. How can human connection be dangerous? But we have different parts of our brain that have different levels of sophistication. And the one that is fighting it is the one that's not very sophisticated.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's good to know because, I want to be better. I want to be better. I want to be more in touch with my feelings and I want to be, but at the same time, I know that I am fighting this change wholeheartedly. I am fighting it because, you know, even the sensation of feeling like if I see something sad or I see something, that makes me emotional, you know, I am to the point where I would rather set myself on fire than to have people cry.
Yeah. Mike, have you heard the saying, we prefer the hell that we do know over the heaven we don't know?
Do not.
So that is kind of like this, your body would prefer to be in a familiar discomfort
Yes.
than an unfamiliar comfort. And so
Yes.
that's where, let's go back to talking about the breathing exercise I taught you at before we started recording.
Yes.
Can you imagine that the you that felt frantic, who had just spilled coffee on his shirt and was like, well, shoot, I've got to record. Oh, well. That version of you, that state, getting an unexpected hug versus the version of you after we did the breathing exercise where you were like, I feel really chill receiving a hug.
Right.
Can
Well,
you
I can
see how maybe that second version of you might be more receptive to the hug?
for sure. For sure. Because before the breathing exercises, a random hug, I may have exploded.
Right.
Ju-
Yeah,
Just, and again, I don't want to continue on this way. Like I said, life is short. I want to make sure that, I'm making the most of it and embracing every second of it. But that starts with, how I am emotionally. I'm a vet, so there are some things that I still deal with, for my deployment net. And the thing with that though, is that that's something now that I can talk about.
that's huge.
I talk about it, primarily in counseling, but I recognize issues that I have before I lash out with them, and so getting getting that under control has been a huge part of my life, because certain smells would set me off. You know, I'd be extremely angry, but I'm screaming and yelling at people. And it's not because I'm mad. It's because the smell triggered something.
Yeah,
And now I'm
absolutely.
rampaging through the house,
Yeah,
complaining about freaking everything.
I know. And you know what, Mike? That makes so much sense
Yeah.
because of this, I mean, you understand it. You've learned about it in counseling, but I'll talk about it in a little bit of a different lens
Okay.
since that's what I'm here to do is talk about the nervous system. So in the training that I'm certified in, we talk about this concept of a neurotag. A neurotag is like that smell. You just referenced a certain smell. So there's a spot in your brain. This is very scientific, right? A spot in your brain. We're going to dumb it way down because I want real talk here, not science talk. But there's a spot in your brain. Let's imagine where that scent that's attached to a memory lives.
Yes.
And in that moment, things happened. There were things you saw with your eyes, there were sounds you heard with your ears, there were emotions you felt in your body, and they're all connected like a web, like a spider web. And so when that scent gets tugged, it gets pulled up and everything gets pulled with it. And so it's like in that moment, you're walking through the house. None of those other things are there, but they are in your brain. So you pull on that scent and you pull the entire web up, and all the other tags get activated. And so, and that can be so frustrating because I would imagine in the moment, or maybe just reflecting on it, you're like, I do that. Like I know better. I know better.
Yeah. And
Why
it
can't I do better in the moment? And it's because your brain takes over.
yeah,
A different part of your brain takes over.
and I always recognize it. Well, let me take that back. I recognize it now versus before. It could be smells, certain sounds. Like I didn't do. I still don't do crowds now. That I don't do fireworks,
Yeah.
but it produces certain things in me that
Mm,
I just cannot deal with.
yep.
But I am much better. Like I've gotten better with. A lot of people laugh at this, but I've gotten better with parking. Near other people.
That's amazing.
Before I would park half mile away from the damn
Yeah.
mall and walk back
Yeah.
to the mall. I drop
Yeah.
my
Uh-huh.
play off and I'd walk back.
Right.
I'm just parking at the furthest part of the parking lot and I'll walk up because I couldn't deal with cars next to mine.
Yeah.
For me, I see danger where other people just see another car.
Yeah. Right. And so look at that progress. I mean, that is neuroplasticity in action right there. That's is seeing that like we can unwind patterns and connections that were made in really life-threatening scenarios.
Right.
So part of learning about how the nervous system works and learning some tools that you can use to shift your state internally can be so powerful because let's imagine that you're parking in a parking lot and you can do it, but you want to feel just a little bit more comfortable doing it. You could do that breathing exercise that I taught you right in that moment. And that's a way of pairing the experience with physical safety in a way that it's going to deepen your brain's understanding that this parking scenario is actually not a threat. And so being able to bring in some really positive nervous system input, I call it, because it's information that's coming in through a sensory system, pairing that positive input with something that feels a little bit unsafe, over time, it's going to make that unsafe thing, it's going to make your brain realize, actually, this is just parking, no big deal, you know? And it takes some time, but by pairing nervous system tools with these experiences, it can accelerate the pace at which you sort of recalibrate your body's
Right.
response to things.
Okay. Well, and that's the thing. So I need to. I want to make sure that more people, are are exposed to this. They hear this. That hey,
I
there
do too.
there are ways for us to handle these situations. A lot of my ethnic friends, they deal with the same issues. Some of them have gotten better, some of them are the same. You know, but learning different techniques that we can do to settle ourselves down.
Yeah,
Learning about the somatic part of how your nervous system works. You know, 10 years ago, to know this would have been phenomenal.
right,
So
right.
now that I'm learning about it, I want to share it with other people as quickly as possible because, again, I understand how it works. And even we had this moment today, just a small, quick breathing exercise,
Yeah.
15 seconds, people, and that was it.
Yeah. Let let's do let's talk about tools, shall we? Because that I
Cool.
just like you, I am so passionate about getting this information out to
Yeah.
people because I think that over time, as humans, we've really lost touch with the physical experience of our body. I joke that we're like a lot of us are just severed at the neck. It's like we've got this brain, and I ask clients sometimes like, "Oh, you're angry. Where do you feel that anger in your body?" And they're like, "Well, I don't. I'm just angry." Because we've gotten really good at sort of like not paying attention to what's going on below the neck because it wasn't rewarded for us to tune in. That was thought of as weak or it was just too uncomfortable. So I love sharing tools with people that they can use in real time. So why don't we go through that breathing exercise right now, actually? Does that sound good? Okay. So I call this long exhale breathing. Okay. And the reason why is because a lot of people will say when somebody is sort of freaking out or panicking, they'll say, "Oh, just take a deep breath." I'm sure you've heard that a lot, right? Well, I actually think that's not helpful information or a helpful directive at all because that doesn't tell you anything about what to do after you've taken the deep breath. So you just breathe in and hold it. Then what? They're missing the really important part, which is the exhale. So, Mike, when you exhale for longer than you've inhaled, it creates this message in your brain that basically tells your parasympathetic nervous system to kick into action. Now, parasympathetic, people don't need to memorize that term. Basically, you've kind of got two ends of a spectrum. You've got the sympathetic side, and that's like the activate, movement, mobilization, like get up and go. The other end of the spectrum is the parasympathetic side, and we're going to say that's the rest and digest side. And all day long, your nervous system is vacillating between two ends of the spectrum. And that's good because if you didn't have the get up and go side, you wouldn't be able to get out of bed this morning and record this podcast, right? So we like sympathetic activation. What we don't like is when it gets so out of control that we're like freaking out, right? Same with the other end. It's great to be able to rest and relax, but not so much that we are like checked out and dissociated and scrolling Instagram because we can't deal with our lives, right? So we want to bring the body sort of into the middle and we want to ride the waves. So when you're on the part of the wave that's more activated and you're feeling like, ooh, I'm feeling too activated. I am feeling panic and frantic. I want to come down. We can use the breath by exhaling for a longer period of time to tell that other side of the spectrum, ooh, let's move over here. So I also call this 3-5-8 breathing. So what you're going to do is you're going to inhale for a count of 3, filling up those lungs. You're going to hold it for a count of 5. And then you're going to slowly exhale over a period of 8 seconds. So I'm just going to do one round while we're talking because if your listeners want to try this, I want them to have the actual experience.
Yes. Hey,
Okay.
if you guys are listening, you're watching, whatever, try this. I'm telling you, it will change it. We won't go through the whole thing, but at least try it at least one time. All right.
Just try it. And if you feel silly, that's also okay. Do it in private. Just listen and do it later. But here we go. So let's do it together. I want you to inhale on my count. 1, 2, 3. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I recommend that people do 3 to 5 rounds of that. By the time you're done with that, you should feel literally more chill in your body. And so that's something you can do anytime. It doesn't require any expert to do it with you. It doesn't require any equipment. It's literally learning how to communicate with the part of your brain that doesn't speak language. It speaks in the language of sensory input. And so if you can tell it through your breath, hey, it's okay, you can chill, it will. And so it's just a great tool to have in your back pocket for those frantic moments.
Yes. And again, for like I said, my point is, and it's not a knock to women, but it is more so to get more guys to a point where we're not resorting to drinking, to drugs, and like I said, to suicide because it is becoming more prevalent in men because we don't know how to deal with whatever issues we're dealing with.
Yeah.
You know,
And you
and
don't have any models to look
right,
to for how to do it.
right, and that is the major things that we have all been taught that you know protect, provide, and those are our jobs. And listen, I can do both of those things, but I want to be more than just protect and provide because protect and provide for me keeps me in. It's like the beware of the dog. I'm always the dog right behind the door, and
Yeah,
you don't know what the dog's going to do. Well,
sure.
I don't want to always be that way because I'm just protecting the house. I'm just protecting my
Yeah,
family. You
yeah,
know, and I know that if I feel this way, other people are going through the same thing too. And that's another thing is that we need to recognize as men that we are not the only people dealing with a situation. We need to look for help, with people in our situation because, or people who have been in our situation and found a way to work through it.
absolutely. Yeah, what you're describing, that dog behind the door, is what I would call, and in therapy circles and professionals would probably call hypervigilance.
Yes, and that's what they call it.
Kind of
So
always on, looking for threats.
always on guard. Yeah, even at night, I've gotten a little bit better. When I hear noises in the house, I don't instantly jump up and
Yeah,
go forward my house.
yeah, that's huge.
And I've gotten to a point where, hey, I'll sit there for a second and you know just relax. Hey,
Hmm.
guess what? It's just somebody walking through the house. It's just
Yeah.
leaning up against the
Yeah.
door. Yeah, that I can't speak to, how other men are. I just know with, the veteran population, so many of us are constantly switched on. You never relax. You see danger every place you go, and I want people to figure out a way to be able to be in the moment. You know,
Yeah.
when I go to a restaurant, I am looking for where all the exits are. Sit with my back to the door. I just want to be able to have a meal and not look at who's coming in.
Totally. And those behaviors, they served you for a really long time and you've realized they don't serve you anymore.
Yes,
So it's time to find a way to change, but you've got to tell your brain it's safe enough to change.
right. So, what are your recommendations? At least
Mhm.
somebody starting off
Yeah,
outside of breathing. What are ways we can recognize that we're really safe in the moment, even
yeah,
though our brain is telling us to
sure.
run for the hills?
Absolutely. That's such a good question. And again, like I really want to give people practical tools. So there's another tool that I like to teach people because it is pretty much universally accepted by most people's bodies as like, oh, my body really liked that. I feel really relaxed. There's certain tools that I teach my clients that some of them, their bodies might be like, oh, I don't know if I like that. And that's a whole other conversation about trying to find parts of our nervous system that aren't working optimally and then working to rehab those areas. But another powerful way to turn on that parasympathetic, that rest and digest state is by stimulating one of the nerves in your body called the vagus nerve. Have you heard that before? Okay.
Yes,
So, for the listeners who haven't, I'll say that when you think about your brain, you've got at the very base of it your brain stem, and out of your brain stem branch 12 cranial nerves. And then off of each cranial nerve, lots of little branches, and then tiny little, it's like a tree, right? With a trunk, and then all the little tiny branches throughout your entire body. Well, the longest cranial nerve of those 12 is number 10, the 10th cranial nerve, and it's called the vagus nerve. And the reason why is because the root word of vagus, it means the wanderer. And that's because the vagus nerve wanders all around your body. It goes through your throat. It innervates your vocal cords. So your vagus, you can thank your vagus nerve for being able to talk. Innervates your heart, your lungs, your gut, your intestines, and it goes all the way down into your feet. Now, what makes this nerve so unique, other than the fact that it's really long, is that it it's like an information superhighway of information coming from your body up to your brain. So if you think about a nerve, it's kind of like a highway. Like there's traffic going from your body to your brain, taking in information. And then there's a side that's taking information from your brain down to your body, bidirectionality, right? Well, you would think, oh, it's probably 50-50. Well, the vagus nerve is actually imbalanced in the sense that only 20% of its activity is taking information from the brain and sending it to the body. 80% of the vagus nerve's activity is to take information from your body up to your brain. So if you can stimulate that nerve, think about all the good information that's going to come up to your brain. And so if you can stimulate it in a way that says you are safe, you're going to get this huge rush of you are safe to your survival brain. Okay, so let me teach you how. I have multiple ways, but for the purposes of this show, since we just have listeners, I'm going to teach you how to stimulate your vagus nerve using your tongue. Now, people are going to be like, this is weird. And you know what? It is. It is. It seems weird because we have not been taught how to use our bodies to communicate with our brains. But I'm telling you, if you can get over the weirdness, this is an amazing tool to have in your back pocket. So, Mike, I love this tool. It's called tongue circles. And I'm going to really narrate what I'm doing because people are listening. So, the way you do a tongue circle is you're going to close your mouth, your lips are together. And I want you to take your tongue and I want you to trace starting in front of your front teeth all the way around back to your molars, down in front of your front teeth, back to your left molars, up and around. So you're making a big circle with the tip of your tongue. And you're really kind of stretching it, like you're kind of pressing your tongue into the soft tissue that's between your cheek and your gum. and you're going to do like 3 circles clockwise and then switch directions and you're going to do 3 circles counterclockwise. And as you're doing that, you're actually stimulating your vagus nerve because it connects to your tongue in the way back part of your throat.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Now, that seems silly. Like, I'm going to move my tongue in a big circle and it's going to calm me down. And the answer is yes, it is.
Going to be my follow-up question.
Yeah. So, this is something that I use like when I'm feeling a little bit frantic, like you were earlier today. I'm a mom, so and I'm divorced and when I've got my kids, it's like just me and my kids and I'm doing a lot, right? And I'll have a maybe frantic moment in the afternoon where we're trying to get everyone out the door for activities and I feel that activation in my body like, oh, I'm feeling kind of stressed. I will do tongue circles while I'm getting the car loaded because I want to stop that frantic feeling before it escalates into me snapping at my kids and saying, "Get in the car. We're going to be late." You know what I'm talking about, right? We all do that as parents.
100%, 1000%.
And I know that it's really important as a parent for me to be a solid, stable, calm presence because my kids learn how to regulate their own nervous systems by co regulating with mine. So if I can stay calm in a moment where I might actually get kind of stressed out or freaked out and snap at my kids, if I can instead just keep putting stuff in the car, then they see, okay, I'll get in the car, but this is not a panic situation. Because I'm sure you understand, like family dynamics. We can all sort of like get ourselves into this big tizzy, and all of a sudden everyone's all pissed off and nobody's talking on the way to soccer practice because everyone's
Exactly.
mad. You know what I mean? So I love teaching parents tongue circles because it's something that, yes, it feels silly, but in the moment, you are literally telling your survival brain, calm down. You're not going to die. You're just trying to get the car packed.
Hearing it broken down this way, and like this is a small thing you could do, you know, to just chill yourself the hell out. Do you, again, I wish that I had known about these things 20 years ago, 30 years ago, because
Same.
like I might even still have a head full of hair, you know, had I not, been so stressed all the time and had I have
Yeah.
had a way to where I could deal with these things,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
externally instead of internally,
I
because
know.
the fight on the inside, I mean, I'm so actually surprised I don't even have an ulcer, you know?
Oh, I am so with you on that. I mean, I'm 47. I'm solidly in midlife.
Yeah,
I look back to Emily as an elementary school girl, as a middle school girl, high school, college, even into my 20s, and I think about all the anxiety that I experienced and battled inside all the time. And I got through it. Here, we're sitting here talking, right? But I think about, gosh, if I would have had these tools in high school when I was stressed out about some test, or I was stressed out about girl drama and being excluded or gossiped about, or all the times where we're just told because society tells us to just keep it inside and just keep on going and like you're fine. We're never taught that like it's important to feel the feelings fully. And then it's also, we're never taught, how do I shift out of this? And so I feel so passionate about sharing these tools widely because they're so easy and they're so quick and they cost zero money and they take about 30 seconds.
right, and let's be real, nobody knows that you're doing what the 2 that I've learned today, nobody even knows that you're doing it. You could be
Very
sitting,
subtle,
you could
very
be sitting
discreet.
in the car doing the breathing exercise.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, there's plenty of tools that I teach my clients in my practice that do require objects. Like, for example, I've got some exfoliating gloves here that I use to rub like my hands, my arms, my feet, and my legs because that provides, believe it or not, really regulating input to your body. Yeah, because so we have this sense, when we think about how does our nervous system take in information? Everybody knows the 5 main senses, right? Your sight, your hearing, your taste, your smell, and your touch. Those are the big 5. But there's 3 more. Okay? So there's your vestibular system.
Okay,
That's in your inner ear. That's the system that allows you to basically like not fall over. It's your relationship with the horizon and gravity.
Okay.
Really important. So when people get vertigo and they feel dizzy and like they're going to fall over, there's something is wrong with their vestibular system. Another one on this side over here with the three other ones. There's
Mhm.
what's called interoception. Interoception is anything you can feel on the inside of your body. So when you feel your heart pounding, that's interoception. When you feel your stomach in knots, interoception.
Gotcha.
Emotions like anger, interoception. Then the last one, this is one that most people don't know about. It's called proprioception.
I know what proprioception is.
I love that about you. So proprioception is your brain's understanding of where your body is in space.
Yes.
And so if you can enhance your brain's understanding of where it stops and starts, it feels this sense of like, oh, okay, that's where I begin and end. Oh, that's where my feet are. And it gives it this massive sense of safety. So it doesn't have to worry about where are my feet so I don't trip over a root when I'm trying to run away from a tiger.
Right.
It can think about how do I want to stay in connection with my kids? How do I want to stay in connection with my partner? How do I want to show up on my podcast? So I spend about, I don't know, 30 seconds to a minute every single morning rubbing my feet with exfoliating gloves because it's like I'm telling my brain, here's where your feet are. And
Mhm.
it's literally grounding me into my existence.
See, I was on with a guy and he was talking about grounding actually. And
Cool.
what he does, he said, listen, man, I go outside sometimes. I just stand in the backyard with no shoes and socks on.
Foot.
Yeah, just
Heck
barefoot.
yeah.
And he said, listen, you got to try it. Now, granted, in Michigan, it's still been a little cold, so I haven't been able to try it yet. But he said, walk around, in the backyard with bare feet. He said, grounding is incredible. So I'm learning all kinds of new stuff. And
Yes.
those listening, listen, guys, I know that some of this stuff sounds crazy. I would also be one of the people who would be like, what the fuck? I am not doing that. That is just
Exactly.
weird. That is just weird.
I
Whatever.
know.
But listen, through experience, what I've learned these last few months, everything doesn't work for everybody, but something will work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. I have a lot when I do group presentations and workshops, there are always people who when I'm telling them like, "Hey, yeah, I want you to do this circle with your tongue." They look at me like, "What are you talking about, lady?"
Yeah.
And I get it because it's weird.
Yeah.
Now, objectively, it's not really that weird. It's just a tongue that can move. Objectively, within our society, it's weird, right? You know what's even more weird? Just having to sit around and be like bottled up anxiety and anger for the rest of your life. Really?
And
That's weird.
then that's me. That is me in a nutshell. I have spent so much time just pissed off, and again, not necessarily mad, but maybe, you know what? I've got some other stuff going on and it comes out as anger because I don't know how to deal with it.
It's the most acceptable emotion for you to use based on your biology.
Yeah, which is depressing. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm trying to get men to, be the one that are trying to force you to watch every Lifetime movie.
No, no. I think that the masculine and the feminine energy together, it's beautiful.
Yes.
It's balanced. It plays off each other. Men, I want men to stay in their masculine energy. I want women to stay in their feminine. I also want them to be able to not constantly disconnect from one another because these other problematic emotions are getting in the way.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah. And here's the thing, I will tell my, like my boys, I tell them, listen, hey, I'm completely cool with you guys crying. It's not something I do, but if it makes you feel better, do that. And I'm never going to judge you for it. If I I am very good with telling my kids that I love them. I make sure I tell them I love them all the time.
Beautiful.
It's probably annoying as hell, but I will always be the guy that you call when you need to lift heavy shit. Or
Yeah.
if somebody has done something to you, I am the guy who will always be there to make sure that it doesn't happen a second time. But I am not the guy, and I'm sorry, I am not the guy you can say, hey, let's go get our nails done. It's not going to happen. Yeah. But I do want to be
And
the guy that, what, you can come up to and give a hug and I won't, lose
you
my,
won't recoil.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, God, don't touch me. So that is what I'm hoping for, and other guys they may not want any of that. but they may just want to be able to be more in touch with, how they feel emotionally. You know, Yet to each his own. Just for me, I'm just at a point in my life where, you know what, I just want to be able to, just relax.
You're welcoming the full spectrum of the human experience,
Yeah.
and you'd like to be able to experience, the more enjoyable side of things,
Yes.
because when we're constantly preoccupied with the hypervigilance, with the, tendency to anger, that keeps us from being able to feel the other side of things. And so I think that, like, this kind of somatic work for men is not about, let's soften you up and take you to the nail salon. This work is really, let's get you feeling safe enough in your body that you can stay in connection with someone in tough moments, that you can tell your kids that you love them, and that you can hold space for them when they're crying,
Yes.
and they know that you're their rock, but you're not going to crumble under the pressure of it.
And that's the thing too, is that emotionally, I love being there for my kids when they need me. But unfortunately, sometimes I feel like because of me being disconnected from my emotions a little bit, I am instantly in, well, I'm not going to cry with you. I'm going to give you a hug, and then we're going to figure out how to fix this. And
Yeah.
sometimes some people need a little more emotion, and I would like to be a little more capable of that. And I'm sure a lot of people,
Yeah.
other men would,
Yeah.
but I've always been taught it is my job to protect everybody. And if something is wrong, someone is hurt, it's my job to fix it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the biological you're biologically wired to do rather than feel.
Yes.
That's what helped you elevate within the tribe.
Yes.
Action over passivity. So, in that moment, one thing a small shift that I think men can make in that moment rather than mobilizing so quickly into let's fix it is to say, do you want solutions right now, or do you just want me to be here?
Yeah.
And the answer might be solution. The answer might be like, I just need 30 more seconds for you to sit with me so I can cry and then it's over. But yeah, that is wiring you come by very naturally.
See, and hearing that, again, makes me feel better, you know, because, I've heard that men we're just wired this way, but I don't have to, fight off any lions or, you know,
No.
the bears and shit,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm no longer in a combat situation where, I want to continue to protect my family. My kids are, was grown up now, but still my job, like I want I want to hold that title, but I don't want to be in that mode every
Yeah.
second of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
You want
cool.
to,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I don't want to be the judge, jury, and executioner. I don't want to be the guy who's on the hunt for, danger every single day.
Yeah. And so a way to practically weave these just three tools that I've taught
Yeah.
today. Well, I guess I just taught two, but a practical way to weave these tools into your experience as you're evolving and as your listeners are going through a similar journey is to, when you feel yourself bumping up into those old patterns of hypervigilance, do breathing in that moment. Oh, you're at a restaurant, you sit down and you find yourself looking for all the exits right then and there. If you can remember to, it's hard to remember to,
Right.
but right then and there, do some long exhale breathing, do some tongue circles, and say in your mind, you're just at a restaurant. Like, this is good. You don't have to look for the exits. You're safe. But you pair that mental state with that regulating input through your breathing or through your vagus nerve, and it will fast forward. It will accelerate the pace at which your brain starts to learn. It doesn't have to
Okay.
do that anymore.
Right. So let me ask you a question. The a father's effects on his kids.
Mm.
How does a father's nervous system, directly impact his kids? Is it the same as with a mom?
No, I mean, I think that moms and dads in traditional gender roles with the masculine and feminine, like, energy and sort of tendencies, I think that they're both safety and security, but in different ways. Like, your kids sense that dad is a provider and a protector, and kids sense that mom is a nurturer.
Mhm.
What really matters is, are you doing it from a regulated space, or are you doing it from like a highly activated space? Because let's flip it over and look at moms for a second, okay? So let's say toddler is running, not very sure-footed, falls down, skins his little knee. Little toddler boy skins his knee, and he's crying and ouch and da 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 da. A mom could kind of freak out, like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay? Are you okay? Here, let's get," and then suddenly the kid's like, "I must really be hurt."
Right.
Kid might also think, "Wow, mom really cannot handle it when something big happens."
Mhm.
Okay. Other end of the spectrum, on the mom might respond by saying, "Oh, you're fine. You're okay. You're okay. Just brush it off." And the kid's like, "I'm fine, but it hurts." And then it's sort of this cognitive dissonance of like, can I really trust that my body is telling me the truth? Which creates problems way down the line. What we're looking for from like a feminine energy in that moment is, I am going to hold you and I'm just going to narrate what's going on. You fell down. That was scary. Your knee hurts. You don't have to freak out and be like, "Oh my gosh." And you don't have to also discount it, be like, "You're fine." That nice, regulated, middle of the road response of like, "I'm going to hold you and nurture you and protect you in this moment with this feminine energy." Now, dads are also around when kids skin their knees. And I think dads are probably more prone to be like, "Oh, get up."
I am. I am.
And guess what, Mike? I bet your parents said that to you.
Guaranteed.
And I bet their parents said that to them, right? So you're
Right.
doing what was modeled for you. And this all makes sense when we go back through like hundreds of thousands of years. But what I'm saying is, parents who are learning more about how their emotions show up and what information the emotions are trying to tell, we're breaking cycles. We're looking at things saying, maybe that doesn't work so well. Maybe when I tell my kid, "You're fine," and inside their head, they're like, "I am? My knee hurts. What do you mean I'm fine?" Maybe that's not the best route, you know? So what I think that men and women are both going for in the moment is just that, like, my kids know they can rely on me to handle their big emotions and also validate them at the same time. And then dads might move into more of a like, "Hey, what do you want to do next? Do you want to go get a Band-Aid or do you want an ice pack?" Solutions, right? That's good. We want solutions. We need solutions. Mom might say, "Do you want me to hold you a little bit longer, or do you wanna go keep playing?" There's lots of ways that we can bring our kids into feeling capable while being held and supported.
Yeah, and I always see the extreme. It's either left or right. It's never anything in the middle. So
Yeah.
either one parent completely overreacts or the other parent doesn't really react at all.
And that's a really common dynamic because I think that, like, when one starts going to one end, the other one sort of counterbalances, and before you know it, they're really far apart in their approaches.
Yes. So, because I can tell, I've always been a parent, that I try not to make a big deal out of things unless it's a big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
kids fall down, or I'll look over. All right, this is great, but you're not going to die. You know,
Yeah, for
is
sure.
my delivery great all the time? Not so
Yeah.
much, but
Yeah.
I recognize that, you know, if I panic, my kids panic.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
because they're looking to you. They're looking to you to be like, "Is this okay?" Because if
right,
dad's freaking out, it's
right.
probably bad.
And but see, and that's the thing right there is that is the thing that as a man I am always so aware of that I'm always in that mode where sometimes where my kids might need to see me softer. I don't know how. I don't know how to at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's where, just to bring it back, and I don't mean to keep talking about these tools,
No.
but like this is like what I do for my work. We've talked about the breathing and the vagus nerve stimulation in the context of what I would call using these things as rescue drills, where you're going to rescue yourself from a situation that's uncomfortable or where you're highly activated. The bulk actually of having a nervous system practice is just that. It's a practice. It's doing it every single day when you don't need it. So imagine, like, I like to joke with my clients that I'm like your personal trainer for your nervous system. So like if I was a personal trainer for your physical muscles, we'd meet at the gym and I'd teach you how to do exercises. And then I would give you homework and I'd say, you need to go to the gym X number of days a week or you're never going to see any results, right? And so you go forward and you lift and you lift and you lift. And then before you know it, you're like, man, my biceps looking pretty good. From my perspective, I teach my clients, hey, I want you to spend 5 to 10 minutes every day doing nervous system tools that give you this like calming sense. Because over time, what that does is it grows your capacity to handle stress and difficult emotions. So eventually what happens is when something distressing happens, like you just don't get triggered to begin with because your body can just stay calm in the moment. So like what I would say for you is like on your own growth journey, as you're looking to become more of this type of man that you're explaining, you would really benefit from every single morning doing tongue circles and then doing that breathing every single day, like you're going to the gym for your brain.
I mean, I wake up like clockwork between I'm up at like 4:35 every morning anyways. But,
Do you have a daily routine in the morning? Like, are you
uh,
brewing coffee? Are you,
so I get up and go to the gym every morning. So,
yeah.
is
So
that
something you could do is while you're driving to the gym, you're in the car anyway. You could do the breathing and the tongue circles every day when you're driving to the gym and then do it when you're driving home.
okay,
And then little by little, it's imagine like you have like a bucket inside your body that holds stress. And if it fills up, it overflows. And that might look like snapping at your kids, right? We want to get the bucket bigger so it can hold more without overflowing.
okay, I
Yeah.
like that. I like
So
that.
if you every single day do these tools, you can still do them in times of distress, but really the key to change and the key to changing your neurology, your neurobiology is by little bits of this regulating input every day. And then before you know it, you're just like, whoa, this thing happened. Normally I would have responded in this way, but instead I just stayed calm and I didn't even have to try. That's wild. And that's the experience that I've gotten from this work. And that's why I decided to become a coach and share it with others because I think everybody needs this.
Right. Okay. So I'll give you one final question. So if a father listening today could take one thing from this conversation to change him at home, what would you recommend?
I would recommend starting to get curious about where anger shows up in your day to day. Because I think that before we start to try to change something, we have to really understand it.
Okay.
When I work with my clients, like a big part of my work is I love to use the word curiosity. I want men to look at themselves and when they feel this anger, I want them to be like, what happened right before this? Because you start to see patterns. You start to see there's certain types of things that really get you. And that's when you can start to notice, okay, I've noticed I always get irritable around this time of day because I'm tired or whatever. Then once you know the pattern, you can start to get ready for it, knowing like, okay, this is when I usually have this thing happen. And then you try one of the nervous system tools that I taught on this podcast in that moment and see if you can start to shift just the tiniest bit in real time, but you like are kind of prepared for it because I just think that like we can't do anything unless we really fully understand it first. And so yeah, I would say be almost like an outside observer of your own behavior.
Well, I am going to keep all that in mind. I hope first and foremost, I hope the guys listening, really take this seriously. I know we have a tendency to say, "Hey, I'm not doing that shit. That's weird," or
Yeah,
I'm not
I
doing that."
get it.
So, and guys, listen, I can tell you right now, I've done this on video, so for everybody to see if I can do it, you can absolutely do it. Um, Emily, hey, thank you so much. Hey, and listen, I would like to follow up. Just but as I learn things, maybe we can do. I don't know. We'll bring another guest on, and we can connect some more dots or whatever.
That would be so fun. It's been a real honor. I love talking with you, and I just want to thank you for the work you're doing in the world for men.
You so much. Listen, this has been an education. I love it when I can talk to somebody and I really walk away with something useful. Getting to do this every day now is really getting to be fun for me. So it's not real work. Yeah, but again, thank you so much. We will definitely stay in touch. I will stalk you on your socials. repost some of the stuff that you do. So just because
Love it.
it's important. So Emily, thank
Great.
you so much for being on the
Thank
show.
you.
Look
You're
forward to talking
welcome.
to you. Continue doing what you're doing.
You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Emily Jacobson. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great day. And all right, we'll see you next time.